A few months ago, I did a review of the StudioG GPaints. Well, Justin appreciated the review so much, he asked me if I could review his new paints. Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Plasmotherapist here, helping you guys to build happiness with plastic model kits. So, before I get into the review of the StudioG GPaints, I think it's important that I disclose my relationship to you guys between me and Justin. Full disclosure, Justin did send me these paints for review. However, I'm not affiliated with Studio Gundam or G Squad, and this review is going to be my honest opinion and my honest takes about these new paints. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this review. So the pack that Justin sent me was their starter pack, which includes all 8 colors of the StudioG GPaint line. If you're unfamiliar with the colors of the StudioG GPaint line, you have black, white, red, blue, yellow, green, which is a Zaku green again, gunmetal, and dark iron. If you caught my last review, you're going to notice that the packaging is a little bit different and definitely a step up from the version 1. I'm excited to crack into this box, so let's go ahead and get it open. Now, upon opening box, the first thing you're going to see is the thank you letter that Justin has put in with each purchase. I thought this was a really nice touch, and I think it definitely goes to show again how much Justin puts care into his product. Behind that, you're going to see a color mixing card, and if you remember from my last video, I asked if he could include some color combinations. I appreciated the fact that he included this color mixing card. However, I would have hoped for something of more of the complementary colors that you can mix, such as purples or even orange. I know there's a green included in this kit, so I'm not too touchy about the green. However, a good mixing guide for maybe blues and yellows would be a good start to help anybody pick up these paints and make any color of the spectrum. The next thing you're going to notice is the matching boxes of the individual paints, which ultimately match the starter bundle that it comes in. Again, I think the updated design is really amazing, and I really want to commend Justin for taking the time to really upgrade his product from his last one to this one. Now, enough about the packaging, let's talk about the paint themselves. When comparing the new StudioG GPaints to the original colors, the first thing I noticed was that the colors are more vibrant. The reds are definitely a lot brighter compared to the original reds, and the yellow seems to be a little bit warmer than the original yellow. The next thing I noticed upon mixing these bottles is that the paint mixes really well, and even though the separation looks really hard when it comes out of the bottle, it definitely tends to mix better than the original colors. I think that's really going to save up on time between paint and time between coats because you're not spending a lot of time shaking a bottle really hard. So there you have the full lineup of the StudioG GPaints. Let's go ahead and get into our tests for today. So first off, what I want to do is I want to compare how strong the paints are. And so to give it the best chance, I have the Vallejo color here with the Vallejo Mega Primer. I have the Gaia Surfacer Evo along with the Gaia Red, but the G paint in the middle is not going to have a primer because these are advertised as not needing them, and so I'm going to compare all 3 of them to see how well they hold up and see if the G paint holds up better or worse than other paints with primers. So go ahead, prime them up, paint them up, and then see how they come out. Alright, so we're back. Paint has been all cured up. All paints have been cured for over 24 hours now. Gaia went down same time as Vallejo, and so here's what I'm going to do. I have 3 different bamboo skewers here that I'm going to use. I'm going to use one for each of them so that they're all brand new and sharp for each test. And we're going to go ahead and see how resistant they are to scratching. So I'm going to start with Vallejo because I'm pretty sure this one's going to be pretty straightforward. The acrylics are usually really soft and really weak. Yeah, see? So already kind of scratching off the paint of that there. You'll usually see a lot of this happening when you start moving pieces that might rub up against each other. That can be a problem when you're trying to pose your kits. Let's see if I can get it to focus on that there. You can see a lot of that scratching appearing there. And so, not ideal when you're trying to repose kits. So, next, I'm going to try the Gaia because I believe this one's probably going to be the strongest. And I want to save the G paints for last. So let's go ahead and see. Okay, the Gaia, because it has a semi-gloss finish, or actually gloss finish, it's slipping around and it's kind of sort of taking some paint off, but I'm having some hard time getting the skewer to stick. And so definitely not as bad as the Vallejo. As you can see there, there's some kind of scratching, right? But definitely not as bad as the Vallejo here. Now, last one is gonna be the GPaints. Let's see how it goes here. It actually seems to be holding out better than the Gaia. Okay. Let's do a side by side here. I'm gonna move the Vallejo off because obviously that's definitely not a contender, but we put them side by side. I don't know, let's see if we can do better. Yeah, and so if you look at the spoons, you can definitely see more scratching on the Gaia. Even though I was having a hard time with it, I was still able to take a lot more paint off of that than I did on the StudioG GPaint. So that's actually really impressive. I thought the Gaia was actually going to hold out more. Okay, let's try metal. Okay, yeah, that came up real easily. Trying the GPaints here. Okay, well, if we do, what's interesting is with the metal, it goes straight down to bare plastic, and because there isn't the primer underneath, it kind of just cuts through everything and starts taking up the plastic. Whereas with the Gaia, it only really takes up the paint. Primer's still kind of there. You can still see it. Hold on, let me get it. Yeah, I mean, you just compare the side by side, it just looks so much better here. So that's the Gaia, and that's the GPaints here. And that's really impressive. So, not only are you saving time, but your paint seems to be a lot more stable than with the lacquer primer and paint. So, yeah, highly recommend the GPaints. Okay, so we're all set up for our next test here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover half of the spoons with the GPaint white. And then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the other half of the spoons with the GPaint yellow. Now, I'm not going to be using another paint for comparison because obviously when it comes to coverage, it's going to be the primer that's going to give you that base coverage. And then on top of that is the paint. And so to kind of get the best representation of how these spoons do, I just want to compare them to themselves when going onto bare plastic. And so I chose white and yellow because generally those are the harder colors to cover up the plastic underneath, especially when you're just going straight paint to plastic. So half of them are going to be white, half of them are going to be yellow. I'm going to go ahead, mask up, paint these up, and we'll see how they look when they're done. All right, so here we have the spoons all painted up after about 3 coats each. I did kind of a light tacky layer first, and then I kind of started to build up a little bit, and then I let it sit. So this is about 3 coats, I think, of white, and the yellow is about 5 coats. And so yellow I really wanted to build up slowly because I know yellow is a weaker pigment, and so far coverage is really good. But the problem is when you look at the yellow on the red spoon as well as the blue spoon, you can kind of see there is some of that color underneath still showing through. The yellow on the red definitely comes out a little bit warmer, and the yellow on the blue is starting to come out, I wouldn't say necessarily cooler, but definitely has a blue tint underneath. Now, is that going to be a problem? Not necessarily, because if you look at the whites, you can almost definitely use it as a primer, especially if you look at like the blue and the reds, where yes, it's not a perfect white, but if you spray the yellow over that, it will definitely come out nicer. Hey guys, if you're finding value in this content so far, leave a like. It lets me know you appreciate the video. If you want to stay up to date on any time I come out with a new video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss a thing. Lastly, let me know if you guys feel like you want to pick up the new Studio GPaints. Drop it down in the comments below if you like them, if you don't like them, if you're hesitant. Let me know and let Justin know what you guys think so far. Anyway, let's get back to the build station and wrap up today's video. Alright, so now that we're done testing out the spoons, I think it's finally time to give it a real test. And well, what better test than to try to just paint a kit with the weirdest colors of all. So closing thoughts, guys, is this a primerless paint? I would say yes for majority of the colors. The only ones I'd hesitate are being white and yellow. The white and yellow definitely had some issues with having some of that undercolor pop through, but I think ultimately with the yellow, if you mix it with a little bit of red, or if you lay down the white first and then spray yellow over it, you can definitely eliminate that problem. I think with the whites, with enough coats, eventually you'll get to a point where it is a true white, but I think with the amount of work that goes into doing that, it might just be better to prime under the white first. Next is scratch resistance. As you guys saw in the spoons, the scratch resistance is amazing, but I think what really speaks volume is the infinite justice. And what I mean by that is, as I was posing and reposing the kit, I didn't have any transfer of paint from piece to piece. None of the paint chipped or flaked or rubbed off on other pieces, and ultimately it blew my mind just how quickly and easily I can move pieces around and not have to worry about chipping or scratching paint off on other pieces. And so the amazing thing about that is that it's not even top coated, and I was able to do all of those things. So A++ for scratch resistance. Finally, would I recommend these paints? Absolutely. I think these paints are fantastic, especially for people who just want to get their feet wet trying to paint. A lot of people, when they're trying to start their painting journey, they're not very comfortable with primers and they'll end up using either spray can primer, or they end up just like giving up because they don't even want to try to mix their own primers. And so having a paint that is truly primerless and works pretty well for almost all colors, I definitely think would be a step up. And if you're looking to get into lacquer, these paints are phenomenal at getting your feet wet and getting you confident to start painting more kits. So there you have it, guys. That's my review of the Studio Gundam version 2 G-Paints. Do you guys think you're gonna pick some up? Let me know in the comments below if you think this is gonna be something for you guys. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you found some value in this content. Remember, take care of yourselves, take care of the people around you, and I'll see you in the next one.